What's up guys, it's Nolan here with Oakos Automotive, back with another episode on our Bugeye build. Like I told you in the last episode, today we're going over everything suspension related under the car. So that's control arms, bushings, sway bars, end links, a few other miscellaneous poly parts, just anything that's suspension related pretty much. I got a pile of stuff over here, we'll wheel it out in front and I'll basically give you the rundown on everything we're doing. All right, so starting off on this side of the table here, we've got some stuff from Super Pro. First thing, kind of not exactly suspension related, but these are just the trans crossmember isolator bushings made of their signature blue poly. These are front lower control arm bushings. This is the front position that slides into your subframe, just new bushings there. And then we also opted to do the complete rear replacement assemblies, and these are going to be the double offset caster adding. So with the STI arms already on the car, we'll get the added amount of extra caster both from the casting itself as well as this rear position mount. Nice looking piece, good aluminum, and then obviously we know the Super Pro poly is really nice. So sticking with the front stuff here, this is actually a roll center adjustment kit. So these are basically just a extended length ball joint as well as matching joint of the tie rod. These come into play when you lower the car a somewhat significant amount. You want to correct the offset to make sure your geometry is all in place, basically retaining the roll center of your suspension in the front. Last thing here from Super Pro, we're doing a set of their adjustable sway bar end links. So that's just both the front and here's the rear pair here. Same kind of thing as the roll center kit. Basically, if you're lowering the car, you want to make sure you get your sway bars into like neutral, as they call it, when the car is at static ride height. And these just let you make sure your sway bar is in the right position in relation to everything else. Over on this side of the table here, we have two products from Subaru themselves. They're both actually an STI product. Ooh. So pretty much here we have the STI pink trailing arms. You get the nice spherical bushing, nice OEM upgrade from Subaru, and you can still buy them new from your local dealer or from us. Link in the description. So then of course, to match the STI trailing arms here, we have the matching lateral link set. Here's just the one with the sway bar mount. Spherical end on that end, regular bushing on that end. On the front arms, you have the double spherical ends. On the rear with the sway bar, they just give you the regular rubber. Nice looking arms, of course, OEM from Subaru, so that's cool, and they're pink. We do have like two more parts that we're still waiting on. They're on some sort of back order. It's basically just a rear sway bar from Super Pro as well, and then some replacement front sway bar mount bushings for our existing front bar. So we don't have those here, but eventually we'll get them on the car when they come in. But for now, we've got, I guess, a decent amount of stuff to work with. So let's get the car taken apart and get this new stuff on. So since we're swapping the rear control arm mounts here for the newer design Super Pro ones, we're actually gonna remove the whole U-frame here, as we don't need the spacer kit that came with the ones we're taking off the car. So we're gonna take the whole U-frame off, get those spacers out of the way. They're just not needed anymore. This is the textbook example of rust particulate. I've never seen like more orange, just corrosion dust come off of hardware before. That's so crazy. All right, so we're starting out with the rear. I like to do the trailing arms first if I'm starting from nothing on the car. Just think it's my preference. Maybe it's a little bit easier, maybe not. Who really knows? Have a little bit of a extended gap here in the bracket, just with the arm itself, but the kit from Subaru comes with some washers to put in there, and that closes up the gap. So we'll get those all in, and it should be good with the washers. That guy first, like that. What was gonna be? Now we're doing the lateral links. These are mostly straightforward. Your inner one for the front toe arm is gonna have the smaller bolt hole, so don't get mixed up with that. Slide that guy. Like that. Rear arm is pretty straightforward with the sway bar mount. You want that to the outside. So with all the arms kind of loosely installed, we can go back to what we've done in the last video, and that's putting the knuckles on. So I got one here, just one of our rear knuckles. We did opt to leave the hard aftermarket bushings that we already had. They're stiff and they're in good condition, so I figured why spend the extra money on something that doesn't need to be replaced. So that's like the one bushing under the car that we're leaving as is. Everything else is getting replaced. But these are pretty straightforward. Just take that, slide it into our old coilovers for now. Just like that. So with the knuckle in now, before we connect the lateral links here, we're gonna put in the axles we worked on last video as well. So these, we just did a new boot on the rear, but this one's good to go, so we can get it first into the diff, like so. Lightly lined up. And then since we have nothing attached to the knuckle here, we can pull it out of the way enough to get our axle back in. So now, just like with the arms we put on so far, these bolts and the axle nut, we're just doing everything kind of hand tight for now. If you start torquing stuff down before everything's connected and without the kind of weight of the vehicle on the ground, you'll end up with all sorts of issues, basically once you're getting finished. So yeah, just hand tight for now when you're putting big stuff together like this. So just make sure everything is kind of happy and lined up before you actually torque it. Now we're on to everyone's favorite bolt, colloquially known as the Jesus bolt, of course. I've heard many interesting explanations for why people think it's called the Jesus bolt. You know, some people will tell you it's because it's so hard to remove when it's rusty, right? I think more so the idea is the fact that it's a giant long bolt, maybe in similar size and shape to like what they nailed Jesus to the cross with. I've really seen people, they're like, it's called the Jesus bolt because it's so hard to remove. You'll be saying Jesus all the time. Last one here for this side. This would bring that Now, if your car's rusty, don't just do that because it's gonna snap. So take a torch to that first and thank me later. Nothing. just lube it up a little bit. $37 foot-pounds on that guy there. Here's why you do this, right? So like that, right? Like that sucks. You don't want that. It's not doing you any favors, right? This one, like the resistance to motion, substantially less than the blown ball joint. And then it ends up just being like a loose fit, but once you install it all together, actually in the control arm, it'll tighten up and be fine, so we'll just leave it like that for now. All right, so last little bit here, we just have to do the front. In the front, the only real points of rubber contact or bushings are on the lower control arm, in the front position and the rear position. Luckily, we can do these completely off the car. We're gonna start with the rear position. Pretty straightforward, put this in the vise. And now here we're getting rid of a older white line kit. So this is a little bit different from how the factory setup looks, but the process is pretty similar. So we'll take this nut off. Take this whole deal. That's served its purpose for a period of time, but they're pretty rigid. Now these are directional per side. So this is left. It's gonna mount up like that. So you're gonna reuse your OEM washer here, just down like that. Get some supplied grease. This isn't a make or break thing, but just kind of any point where you're gonna get the poly, I guess, against a metal surface. And then also metal on metal is a good idea as well. Just a little bit, nothing crazy. Put that guy on. That was so thoughtful of you. So get that on there. Greased up the washer as well. These are also supplied in the kit. They're a little bit smaller than the factory ones. I'm guessing just to aid in the offset of the mount so you don't hit the chassis in any way. So grease there as well. Just keep everything happy, you know, no mechanical wear happening. But with that all together, then you just take your nut, put that back on, and this will be another thing we will basically torque to spec with everything else once it's all back on the car. Next, we're moving on to the front position bushing here. These aren't as easy as the rear. You can't just take the nut off. You do need some sort of press. Luckily, these are already an aftermarket bushing, so someone kind of did the work for us. But the OEM ones do come out fairly easy as well. We're just using typical ball joint press, kind of a little bit easier than fucking around with a hydraulic or pneumatic press that takes up shop space. So basically just there and there, and it'll come out easy peasy. Now we're going to take our new bushing. Of course, these are a three-piece design, so you don't have to use any kind of press tool. They just go in real easy, but of course, grease everything up first. You don't want a dry bush. It's like some double trouble. Don't come a-knocking. How about that? All right, with the control arms back on, now we're good to put our knuckles in. Just like the rear, now the knuckles are going in, we can also put in the axles that we did in the last video. And so for these, they were brand new, complete assembly from Subaru. Of course, just a beautiful piece. You won't get that from AutoZone. So we'll put this guy in, we'll get the knuckle on, and start getting it kind of bolted together. I'm so inserted right now. There we go. Dar we go. Darwin Award. You know how like inserted I'm about to be? So key moment here, don't forget your ball joint cone into your aluminum LCA. That's an important step. So I just like to put it on the ball joint because that's typically where they end up. And then we'll just shove her up. And just like everything else, you know, kind of hand tight, snugging it up. We're not gonna torque anything down just yet. Obviously don't drive your car like that. That would be not fun. All right, so moving forward now, this bit, not exactly suspension related, but it is a rubber piece underneath the car. We're just doing the trans cross member isolators or bushings or whatever you wanna call them. The ones here still on the car are probably one of the few remaining original things, and they are cracked in various places and just generally worn. So we're just swapping those out with some Super Pro ones here. Pretty straightforward, just gotta pull the trans cross member off, take it apart a bit, and put these in where the other ones come out. It's back on. Okay, so we got everything for the trans cross member laid out here. Just gonna go through and put in our new isolators or bushings or whatever you'd like to call them. Pretty straightforward. They just kind of go in there. We'll hold them together with the crush tube like that. It's gonna go through like that. Now it's really important that you don't drop the nut inside of this. Because it's not easy to get it out if you do drop it in there. So I would suggest against doing that. Snug those up, nothing crazy. That part's done. We'll flip this over there. And for the rear section here, it's basically the same thing. It just goes like that.
You were bad.
Generally. Okay, so last kind of step here of our whole undercar transformation, we're tackling the sway bars. When we first started the video, these parts had not arrived yet. Luckily, we took so long to film this video that now they're here. So just the quick overview for the front bar, we're keeping the old school Cobb hollow bar just because it's lightweight and it's pretty much the same diameter we would have went with the Super Pro here. So we just got some new bushings for it to replace the old worn ones. So that'll be for the front. Matching that, of course, we have nice adjustable sway bar end links from Super Pro as well. Now for the rear, we just did a complete Super Pro bar. I wanna say a 22 mil. I don't really remember. Probably a 22 mil. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that kit comes with the correct size bushings you need from Super Pro, and then we added on just matching adjustable end links for the rear. And of course as well, don't forget your installation grease. We're gonna put these on the car and wrap this video up. Swapped it, added their meeting. They're like, how is he able to? Non-OEM power tag. All right, so we got the sway bars both installed, front and rear. Just kind of loosely tightened everything up here. We're gonna go through and basically nut and bolt everything that we've done once we have the car back on the ground and we're kind of setting up the alignment and the rest of the suspension. But just for now, it's tight enough to not fall apart. So that's where we want it. Once we move on to some more stuff in future videos, we'll basically go through the alignment stuff we're gonna do, as well as like setting up the proper adjustment for the sway bar end links. So stay tuned for that in the future for sure. In the next video, continuing our series here, we will be tackling the steering rack on this car. The steering rack is, I don't know how original or not original it is, but it's leaking as old Subaru steering racks do. So we're gonna be swapping that out with something fresh, basically. New rack, new tie rods, new hydraulics, all that good stuff. But we'll go over all the details of that in the next video. But in the meantime, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, leave us some comments, let us know how we're doing. Check out our other videos, and then keep an eye out in the future for more Bugeye videos. But we'll see you guys in the next one.